This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
This is your WGBW Daily News Roundup for the Talk of Green Bay, 97.9 FM and 1590 AM.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Wisconsin state Republicans have officially appealed a Dane County court ruling that struck down parts of the controversial Act 10 as unconstitutional. The legislation passed in 2011, and it limited the ability of some public service workers like teachers to collectively bargain. On Monday, Judge Jacob Frost found the law violated the Equal Protection Clause of the state constitution, as only some public employees lost those bargaining rights. State Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said they will also seek a stay of the decision pending the result of the appeal. The Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development has announced $4.3 million in funding to help residents affected by the opioid crisis. The funding will be used to create disaster relief positions through the National Health Emergency Dislocated Worker Grant to provide humanitarian needs as a result of opioid use. The opioid crisis was declared a public health emergency in 2017 with the rise of fentanyl, and since then, opioid-related hospitalizations and overdose deaths have risen sharply. Protesters disrupted a UW Board of Regents meeting yesterday, and police had to step in. Savannah Tomei Olson reports.
Protesters were arrested when they interrupted a UW Board of Regents meeting. It happened yesterday on the UW-Madison campus. At first, about 50 demonstrators were silently lining the walls of the meeting. Student groups who organized the action say they want the UW system to divest from companies they say have a financial stake in the Israel-Gaza conflict. UW-Madison police say eventually the protesters started chanting, and they arrested 19 of them, leading them out of the room. Within about 90 minutes, they had all been released. Students from both UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee were part of the demonstration, advocating for Palestine, according to the student groups who organized it. In the spring, both universities had protesters camping on campus grounds, which led to policy changes. Authorities say no citations were issued, but that could change in the future.
The American Red Cross encourages people to create a new holiday tradition, giving blood or platelets. Rebecca Rockhill, Northeast Wisconsin Executive Director.
We can give a gift to a person who is fighting cancer, or a newborn who's needing blood, someone who may be going through a sickle cell crisis. Giving gifts and saving lives as a family together. What a great tradition to start with families going into the new year.
People who give blood between December 9th and 15th will receive a $15 e-gift card. You can schedule your appointment to give blood by calling the Red Cross, using the Red Cross donor app, or visiting redcrossblood.org. Another shakeup in the leadership of Xavier Catholic School System in Appleton. Interim president of the system, Katie Heim, resigned. Her position would have ended December 31st. This comes just weeks after Xavier High Principal Mike Mouthy and Superintendent John Ravazza were both fired. In a letter to the faculty, staff, and parents, Bob Ellis, the chairman of Xavier Catholic School System Board of Trustees, said they hope to have a new president in place by July 2025. The death of a man in downtown Neenah on November 24th is now being investigated as a homicide. 73-year-old Keith Reiskamp was found behind a residence on East Doty Avenue. Officers say they have a person of interest, and they believe there is no threat to the public. The U.S. Supreme Court is currently deciding whether to take on a Wisconsin case about school policies on gender. Savannah Tomei Olson reports.
The Eau Claire Area School District updated their policy to say that if a child wants to be addressed by a different name or pronoun, staff would respect that and would not notify parents without the child's consent. Advocates for LGBTQIA youth say that can protect queer kids whose families may not understand them. But a group of parents, represented by the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, sued the district. They claim the policy usurps their rights as parents. Luke Berg, representing the families who filed the lawsuit.
This can do harm to children, and in our view, that's why parents need to be involved.
Meanwhile, Haley Archer, attorney for the Wisconsin ACLU, says it's not a black and white issue.
I believe one of the reasons that this question is debated is because it is complex. We're balancing the rights of parents, we're balancing the rights of schools, we're balancing the rights of students. And ultimately, The safety of the student is, in my opinion, the most important of these rights.
The Wisconsin Office of Children's Mental Health reports nearly half of LGBTQIA youth in the state seriously consider suicide. Nationally, according to the Trevor Project, those rates drop significantly for trans and non-binary young people who feel accepted at home. Now, this lawsuit has been dismissed in Wisconsin courts twice. Judges have said while the parents are genuinely concerned, the policy hasn't impacted them or their kids, so the suit has no standing. The parents have now asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review their case, but the court only takes on less than 1% of requested cases. For Civic Media News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Packers lose to the Lions. Hi from Ford Field in Detroit. I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Lions kicking a last-second field goal to win 34-31. It was a back-and-forth game all night. Detroit jumping out to a 17-7 lead. But in the second half, Keyshawn Nixon intercepted a Jared Goff pass, and the Packers offense scored to take the lead. Head coach Matt LaFleur.
The other guys did a good job coming out the second half, kind of getting the momentum by going down, scoring a touchdown, hitting the big play to Christian, then defensively getting the takeaway and converting that into points. But ultimately, I thought we just started, especially on the offensive side of the ball, too slow.
So the Packers are now 9-4, but running back Josh Jacobs, who scored 3 touchdowns, thinks they could face the Lions here in the postseason.
Yeah, we're going to see them again. That's the beauty of it all. Take these feelings, process them, and go back to work.
NBA, the Bucks are in Boston tonight to play the Celtics. College hoops, Marquette hosts Wisconsin tomorrow at 12:30. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Are you a fan of undead hordes? Listen up. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is offering a free trial of the game December 13th through the 20th for multiplayer and zombies. Not quite sure what that means, but they sure sound fun to pretend to shoot. The game will have new maps with names like Hacienda and Nuketown Holiday and feature new weapons. Activision says the game has already broken sales records in the first 30 days, and the free trial is expected to hike up profits even more. Things are really heating up on The Masked Singer. The quarterfinals are in the books, and Goo's identity has been revealed. It was LA Rams defensive tackle Kobe Turner. Jenny McCarthy guessed the identity of Goo, who narrowly lost to a character named Strawberry Shortcake. Folks, if you are not watching this show, drop everything you're doing and keep not watching. In Nothing to See Here news, superstar Taylor Swift was named the #1 most streamed artist on Spotify for 2024, according to Variety. That makes 2 years in a row for the pop icon. Swift songs pulled almost 27 billion streams. She was off to a good start when her album Tortured Poets Society racked up 300 million streams in one day and 1 billion in the first week. When playing a legendary character as the lead in a movie, it is probably a huge vote of confidence to get the person who you are portraying's endorsement. Timothy Chalamet plays Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. Dylan recently took to social media to say that he is sure that Chalamet will be completely believable in the role. If Dylan had actually said those words, it would have sounded like Chalamet. Chalamet is already getting Oscar buzz for his portrayal as Dylan. A Complete Unknown opens Christmas Day. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie have a new show that they say will be as unforgettable as the first show they did together, called who cares? The duo is collaborating again for Peacock's new show, Paris and Nicole, The Encore. The short 3-episode series drops December 12th on Peacock. Following in the footsteps of Ross and Rachel, Barry Keoghan and Sabrina Carpenter are on a break after dating for a year due to rumors of infidelity on the part of Keoghan, who apparently has been hooking up with a TikToker, probably someone who got famous lip-syncing Carpenter songs. The influencer's name is Becky Hill, and she has 4 million followers on OnlyFans, which is somehow 5 million more than I have. People assume infidelity is the reason they split, but maybe Carpenter finally saw Saltburn and hasn't stopped vomiting. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy this morning, becoming partly cloudy by later this afternoon. High today, 27 with wind out of the west at 5 to 15. Tonight, 16. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, 37 by Sunday. Partly cloudy with a high in the low 40s with some rain by late Sunday into Monday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 17.
That's your WGBW Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at WGBW.FM. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.